Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Dare Dallas webinar, which is the first one for 2003. So I trust you've all had a fantastic Christmas and hopefully a good year so far. Now, today, I'm really pleased to be joined by Helen Doyle, who is our newest acquisition to the team. Now, if you've seen any of my previous videos on handbags, you'll know that I've got a bit of a soft spot for bags. So it's a real pleasure to chat with somebody else who's actually got probably even more of a bigger love for handbags than I have. So Helen, nice to meet you, and how are you?
I'm really well, thank you. Really well. Yes, you are right. I do love a handbag, so which is nice, and I like having a good collection. But it can be a little bit tough on the old paycheck each month when you get to handle so many nice bags, and you can't help yourself but to try and treat yourself from time to time. So, yes, love a handbag.
Excellent. So how did you actually fall into becoming a handbag value? Because it's a question that I get asked quite a lot.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it kind of happened really by accident. So my background is mainly jewelry. When I decided to go into the industry, I trained as a gemologist, and basically it just so happened that we were starting to be offered more and more handbags as time went on. It just meant that, I was handling the bags and having to kind of look up, different designers, different models, different types of leathers, and obviously you've got all the exotic skins. As well as jewelry, I started to have a very personal interest in them as well. So I enjoyed handling them. I admired them. And I just through them becoming more and more popular on the secondary market, just got more and more exposure to them. And through that, just learnt and learnt. Occasionally got offered a fake, which was not great, but obviously good in terms of development, because as you handle them, because some of them can be very, very good, you obviously then begin to be able to authenticate the real thing, which is obviously very important when you're buying secondhand as well. So yeah, it was really by accident, but actually has now become, just as much of a love as the jewelry and the watches side of valuations. So.
Excellent. No, it's a good story. And as you say, it's one of those markets that seem to be increasing ever so much over the last few years.
Absolutely, yeah, and I've been lucky enough to handle some really sort of exciting pieces as well. We got offered a solid silver Hermes Kelly bag, which was so interesting and very rare as well. And obviously it's, you can be offered something quite rare, but it sort of looks like a bag, but this was, a metal bag in the shape of a Kelly. And it was just fantastic. It was amazing, and just like a wonderful piece to handle, and also some really interesting and different sort of limited edition pieces as well, which are just really fantastic.
Now, you mentioned obviously the secondary market is where the market is booming, and we'll come on to that in a minute. But when we're talking about Hermes bags, which predominantly I think, the vast majority of my clients, as investment pieces,
Yeah.
I've been looking at Birkins and Kellys for many years. And one bag that I've been lucky enough to see four of now, the white Himalayan crocodiles, and they're phenomenal pieces. But we're talking about £250,000 bags here, aren't we?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, some of the prices, I think that particular bag actually achieved the highest amount ever seen for a handbag at auction. Yeah, and it sold in Hong Kong, I think, for around £500,000. So not only have you got that lovely exotic crocodile skin, sort of simulating the snow-capped Himalayas, but also the hardware is white gold and set with diamonds. So you have got the absolute epitome of luxury in a bag, and yes, as you say, a great investment piece. These are pieces that just get bought. They they are stored beautifully, and they just increase in value. Just absolutely a fantastic investment.
But it's not just the really luxurious ones. I mean, nowadays you're struggling to get even a basic Birkin 25 for less than 40 grand, aren't you?
Well, it really is. It's sort of a very similar story to the kind of Rolex Submariner, Daytona, and those Patek Philippe models that just are kind of unattainable from retail. If you want a Hermes Birkin bag and you want to go and buy it from Hermes, you are going to sit on a waiting list for years. And then when it comes to it, what you're going to actually be offered is a small selection. You're not then able to kind of just choose what color, what skin, what size you have. It's sort of you're given what you can have. Like you're not given a great deal of choice.
No, I heard a fantastic story whereby somebody basically was asked to provide 3 years of their spending habits at Hermes before they were allowed to even get on a waiting list.
Yeah.
Then they got a phone call at 6 o'clock in the morning telling them they had a Birkin for them, but they weren't going to tell them what it was or what size it was. They just said yes or no, but if they said no, they'd never get another one.
Yeah, and that is what you see throughout, and I think that is the very thing that makes their secondhand market so strong, is because all of a sudden you can choose what color Birkin you're getting or your Kelly. You can choose the size, you can choose, and you can choose, you have a choice, and people are willing to pay an absolute premium for that. And quite rightly so. A lot of these bags are in immaculate condition. People look after them, and they're stored correctly, and then their value just continues to go up over time.
Do we think there is going to be a point over the next couple of years, and we've seen it, obviously, we were referring to Rolex and Patek, since April of last year, things have started to come back down again. Do we think that's going to happen with the same with bags?
I don't know. I mean, it's very difficult to kind of forecast things like that, I think. But I do think that because of how it's hard to get them, there'll always be a market for that kind of thing, and they're so popular. I mean, it's almost like it's beyond a bag. It's not even part of the bag anymore. It's actually just becoming. It's almost like becoming part of a club, to own one. So.
It's an access point as well, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
Once you're in there with Hermes.
Yes.
That seems to be the way it rolls.
Yeah.
Moving on from Hermes and talking about other brands as well. What other brands are hot at the moment? What's happening with the market in other places?
I think the three main, the Hermes obviously are a great investment piece, and a great and a lovely, and they've got some really great designs as well. My second one would definitely be Chanel. They're just an iconic brand. The classic will just, I don't feel it'll ever go out of style. Just that beautiful quilted fabric. It's almost sort of puffy in its design, with the lovely chain, and they just are. People love them. They sell so well. And they're so popular as well. And they're just a great bag, but also again, just really just so popular. You can always guarantee that one will fly, if put through sale, or if you've got one for sale, and there's always people waiting for them. So I would say Chanel, and they do also a version wallet on chain, which is a smaller version, but again, they're just so popular, and they're a very similar sort of style as well. And also they do some really quirky limited editions. They do some of their bags which are shaped as like a perfume bottle. And again, these just seem to do so well because they're just so different. And, you know, people just think how fun this bag will be, you know, and so I think they're really popular as well. But there's so many of the designs with Chanel that are just, you know, they represent the brand. It's what you think of when you think of Chanel. Like the 2.55, again, just the boy bag, that they're all so, you just associate those with Chanel. And I think they're just always so popular. So, you know, with popularity, you know, you can obviously, you know, people are willing to pay a premium for these things.
Does it make a difference? Obviously, with Chanel, the availability is there a little bit more, and I know obviously Chanel increase their prices every quarter or so, it seems, at the moment. But
Yeah.
obviously, they don't have the same problem. Purchasers don't have the same problem as they do with Hermes, whereby it's become this kind of Veblen item that people can never buy.
Yeah.
Chanel, there is that availability that's there.
Yeah, they're with Chanel, it's not the same as Hermes, that there's a problem with availability. You can go and buy. I think the thing that makes Chanel a good investment piece is that there is always going to be that demand for the, you know, be it the secondary market or from new. So you know, but yes, it is slightly different from the Hermes, where it's almost impossible to kind of get
Absolutely.
one of these bags.
Absolutely. And so the last of the big three, which I'm presuming starts with an L.
It does indeed, yes. You're very right. Yeah, Louis Vuitton. Again, there are some of the designs that are completely iconic. The obviously the monogram, which is that the brown with the LV, and kind of iconic as well for the brand. And the trunks do very well. The pieces of luggage do extremely well as well. We always see that they, you know, they do very well on the secondary market. I think there are people who turn the trunks into coffee tables and all
Oh
sorts
no, yeah,
of things like that.
I mean, there are clients of mine that just have them sat in the corner of the room because they do look great.
They
You know,
do, yeah.
they're a beautiful thing. I think last week I had a lady with a beautiful turn of the century shoe cabinet that was
Lovely.
just stunning. But yeah, they're iconic pieces, as you say.
Yeah, they've done a lot of collaborations as well. They tend to work really well, and again, they're just quite interesting. They did like a Jeff Koons version where they had Monet paintings on the front of bags, and they seem to do very well. Just the classic models, the pochette, the Speedy, you know, these types of the Alma, people just love them. They're really great bags.
And I think great value. A Speedy 30s, you know, less than £2,000, and it's actually something that'll last you a lifetime, and they're good things. Yeah.
They really are, and they're really they're robustly made. Those bags, because they have that. One of the fabrics that they use, the canvas, is actually a really robust. You know, it takes a lot to kind of scratch it or to do anything with it. You know, it can be a really good everyday bag, and actually really last quite well as well.
But I suppose one of the things with Louis Vuitton is the fake market, because I imagine that's probably like Rolex, I suppose, but probably Louis Vuitton is the most copied, would you say?
I would say, I mean, I wouldn't want to put anything in the most. You know, that there are fakes of all of those bags out there, and they're all of varying degrees. So, you know, you could spend £1,000 on a fake Hermes. So, you know, that bag is still going to be a really good quality bag. But obviously not of the quality that you would see with Hermes. It's important that you get them authenticated by an expert, because you are right, there are some good fakes, and there are lots of things you can do that can kind of help with that authentication process, understanding serial numbers and things like that, because quite often the serial number will give the bag a date. It'll also give the bag a place of where it was made. So cross-referencing that information with receipts and things like that. But yeah, basically an expert eye will be able to differentiate between the real thing and a fake. And yeah, it just takes it just comes from experience. But as you know, once you've handled the real thing, when you're given a fake, you do start to think, this doesn't feel right. And
you are completely right. It's all in the feel. I don't think if you've never handled the real thing and trying to compare an Epsom leather to something that's trying to be an Epsom leather that isn't, is very, very, very different.
Exactly.
And as you say, with Hermes, the way in which they make things, is unparalleled, really. I mean, it is incredibly good. But all the different types of Hermes leathers and exotic leathers and, indications of things, it's all, if you know it, you know it. If you don't, it's a torturous path, because unless you have something to compare it to, the build quality, as you say, is pretty good on some of these things. They've even got the hand stitching sorted out, the printing of the logos. I think for years and years, all the fakes had the wrong indicators of leathers and things like that next to the stamps. But now they finally got it right.
Yes.
But it's the same with watches. They're getting so good these days. And people, because of the market, I think, unfortunately, especially with Birkins, they're willing to pay £1,000 for a fake, because ultimately, why wouldn't you? Because they are, unless you really know, you're never going to know. So it's just
absolutely. Yeah, and I think that it's become easier to buy secondhand because there is now that expert knowledge out there, and there are places where you can go to buy